This is Matt Sigmund, one half of the best unsigned tag team in the world, the Heat Seekers, and you are listening to CCP Podcast.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That is John Cable. We are back from a month off, much needed. Needed to get some big time recuperation. We've been running strong for about 18 months now, and the rabbit hole of professional wrestling is a gift that keeps on giving. I'm glad to be back with Beyond the Bell. John, how you doing, man? I know you've missed this too.
I certainly have. You know that this is one of my favorite shows that we do. I think besides Inside the Indies show, this is like my baby. I love this.
It's good stuff. It brings us closer. We have always said since day one on the channel that wrestling brings people together. We mean that wholeheartedly. Whether good, bad, or indifferent, we lean towards the good. And today, man, I couldn't think of a better show to come back on. We fell in love with the independent scene and even created Inside the Indies based off of stumbling across this product. We're going back down to Australia, and I can remember, we talked to Red Shaw, we've talked to Katie Trey, we've talked to Angus Dacey, and maybe a couple other guys down from Riot City. But everybody had one thing in common. And then if you want to talk to somebody who knows Riot City and knows everything Riot City and has a finger on the pulse of Riot City, you got to talk to this guy. That man is Jimmy C, man. Welcome to the show, brother. I'm glad to have lined this up and get the opportunity to talk to you. How are you doing, man, and what's going on down in Australia?
Doing fantastic, lads. Thanks for having us on. It's bright and early here on a Sunday morning. It's currently Father's Day here in Australia, so I'm going to be visiting the fam. I thought I'd take a hour out of my day and come chat to you guys. I know you've been big supporters of Riot City Wrestling for a number of months now, pretty much a year. So I've been catching up with all your content, all your love for Dr. Gruder and Jett Armstong as well. I know you just adore us together.
I'm all about the cheese. Yeah, man.
Yes.
John.
Apparently, we did international vote.
I'm telling you, you'd get a Gouda vote here and a Brady Marshall vote over there. He wants some martial law, and I'm just like, nah, man, we gotta have the cheese. Fantastic work going on down in Australia, and we talked a little bit before we started recording. And we really started our deep dive on independent wrestling by stumbling across Riot City Wrestling. Mm-hmm. When you put on a product that can make that grown man cry, it's something to behold.
I do cry at a lot of things, I'm not going to lie, but absolutely the emotional tap that Riot City drove into my heart was instantaneous. So,
one of the things
that's the beautiful thing about pro wrestling, man.
Dude, I'm telling you, when I think when we talked to Angus off air, Angus says you really need to talk to Jimmy. You really need to talk to Jimmy C. Like, just hit him up. And for a while there, I was like, man, doing this, like, I should be comfortable with just reaching out and talking to people and saying, hey, you want to do this? But it's a mixed bag because you never know what you're going to get. Some people are polite about it. Some people are not. Some people are assholes. Some people are really cool. So I was, stuck up the courage to go ahead and send the message. And I was like, this dude's not going to want to talk to me. He's not going to talk to us. Like, why would he want to come talk to us, right? So I tell John, hey, man, I sent the DM. And what was funny about our first initial response through DM was what happened to you happened to me with Brady Roberts. He sent me a DM. It went to a hidden folder that I didn't know anything about. I'm not tech savvy. I opened it up. It was months old, and I answered it. And I was like, I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't know that this was even here. But thankfully, you stumbled across the message and you answered back because we definitely have wanted to pick your brain about Riot City Wrestling. We're told that you are the guy that we need to talk to. John and I both, as outside of the in-ring product, something that draws us in is production. And the production value that goes into the shows themselves that can really separate a good independent program. You can have the best in-ring work, but if you've got the shitty production, it's not going to come off well. You're not going to come off as good as you could or as good as you should. Riot City's total package. It's got the great in-ring work and it got the fantastic production level. So where I want to start with you is, when did you first get tied up into Riot City, and how did that come about for you?
So when I first jumped into pro wrestling here in South Australia, there were heaps of promotions, and I thought, well, I finished year 12. What am I going to do? I know I wanted to pursue a career in radio, but pro wrestling had always been a thing since I was in love with since I was 4 years old. You know, going to video stores and getting all the VHS. Yes, I'm old enough to remember VHS. I may not look it. I even go to the video shops and buy up all the old WWF, WCW tapes that I could for $2 when they were just discontinuing them. And I thought, yeah, it's time. I need to do something. Ended up a friend through a friend through a friend got me in contact with someone at RCW. I came down and had a chat with the man himself, Chris Basso, and rest was history. Brought me in originally to be a color commentator, as one of the gentlemen that was on commentary at the time was transitioning back into the ring. And, you know, I thought I could do this. I had a radio experience maybe a year or two behind me, so I was comfortable talking. And from there, they paired me up with a guy by the name of Kurt Barron, who is now Sigma. And we were pairing for a long time. And long story short, I ended up becoming the general manager for a couple of years there, and the rest is history. I've gone off with different stories with many different people, and it's been one hell of a ride, man. And I can't believe it's going to be 9 years next year, and it feels like yesterday. It's crazy.
John, I want to throw it to you real quick. We're just going to kind of bounce back and forth here.
Dude, it does go really fast, doesn't it? The years in the ring and around the ring are very, very lightning paced. So when you started off, you said that you started as commentary. When did you get involved in the production aspect of it? When did you move from like, hey, I'm a guy that's on camera, to let me work in the office stuff and get that working? Like, how did that transition happen?
I think it happened like slowly, but it was from me doing my own stuff. I remember before I even jumped in on shows, I was doing write-ups on my own personal Facebook. And I just like to get creative with it. Like, I'm the nerd that used to have indie feds and fantasy booking with forums back in the day when all my high school mates had dropped out of their love of wrestling, which happens with any social group. You know, you either love it till, you know, the end of time, or it's a fad for you. It just never stopped being a fad for me. And I'd get creative on there, and I thought, you know, okay, cool. I actually have a wrestling promotion that I'm tied to now, and I can, you know, express that through some write-ups for matches, a little bit of hype, and that got noticed by some of the creative team at the time. And yeah, they brought me in to give advice, give opinions on promos where I could, and I'm still learning myself, which was weird to think that here's at the time 19-year-old kid, and I've got these larger than life characters coming up to me and saying, hey, what do you reckon I should say here? Just getting my opinion. And it was cool to collaborate. I love collaborating and coming up with some awesome character work, and that ended up leading me to working in the social media team, and from there I just picked up anything I could from all different aspects of life. Wrestling on TV, my radio has helped heaps, so I'd apply a lot of what the marketing and direction radio stations were going to get a finger on the pulse. You know, especially today, culture moves so fast, and what's popular can be gone like that in an instant. You know, and I thought, well, we need to keep trendy. We need to keep pumping out content. And at the time, the content, I believe, just wasn't going out the speed that we needed it to be to keep up everything else going on, especially with promotions around the country, and we could see what they were doing. And I wanted RCW to be a part of that. We were already up there to begin with, but I didn't want us to be left behind. So how I got into the graphics side of things, so all our show posters, that's all common creations. I decided to show my work off, and fortunately enough for me, the lad at the time that was doing it, he left, and I threw my name in the ring, and I got the job. I got the gig, and I just love being tied to RCW in any way I can, whether it's making posters, whether it's putting together video packages, and it's all self-taught. I was crap in digital media in high school. I really was. I wasn't great at all. I think I got maybe passable grades at best. But again, when you're doing something you love, it never feels like work. It never feels like you're doing a chore. And when I can focus on a wrestling project, it's something I'll get done very quickly, and I'll enjoy every second of it. So the fact that I can do it with people that I've now become friends with and help a promotion in my hometown grow it's the best, absolute best.
Well, let me ask you this. So going back, like, you got to grow confidence in everything that you do, whether as far as a performer is concerned. So when you're betting on yourself by saying, hey, let me try this. Let me do this. In your earlier years, when did you realize, like you said, you had guys come up to you and like ask for advice on promos, et cetera, et cetera. When was that moment that when you realized that I got this? Like you may have been working with somebody who came and asked for advice and may have been hesitant, but went out and did it and it was a success. And you start, I guess, building that confidence level to really take the bull by the horns and try and help the company itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's weird because I think it was the first day I walked in the door that I knew I was going to be all right here. Not from only the vibe and the culture that RCW brings, but from my nerves were at an all-time high. I'm walking into something that if this doesn't work out, you think you're going to be blackballed. Like, you get a bad rep. Like, nah, don't hire this guy. He was the shits day one. And you get in your own head, especially like I'm, again, 18, 19 years old, fresh out of high school. I'm just giving this a go because I've always wanted to be a part of it. I decided to have a practice interview with me on our promo nights, which is another thing I love about RCW. We schedule promo nights. You hear about Dusty Rhodes back in the day taking him at the PC, and it's very similar vibe. You know, we get a lot of old heads, a lot of the rookies will come together and we'll just work on their mic and their character work, and I think that's so important. It's a big chunk of the product that gets missed sometimes by a lot of young guys. And you see the flashy moves on TV, and I get it. I really do. It's impressive, but what are the moments that stick out to everybody? It's the stuff that happens on the mic. That's the most memorable stuff for me anyway. Yeah, I have my favorite matches, but I can tell you more favorite promos than I do matches. And when I walked in day one, they had me paired up with a guy. I didn't know his backstory at all. He just relayed it to me. It was basically stand there with a microphone and let him respond, and you respond naturally as well. I think they fed me like a question to ask him, and from there he decided to throw me down at the end of the interview because he got mad, and I just went with it and looked at me and went, "Yeah, you'll be all right." It was just like that. Like it felt like, okay, I get it. That made me feel so much more at ease. And then I decided to rock up every single Wednesday, which is our promo nights. However, I didn't know it was once a month on a Wednesday, not every single Wednesday. So they see this guy who's not paying his gym fees, just rocking up every Wednesday. What was this kid doing? And eventually, Matt Grimbasso came up to me and says, well, you're here. Do you want to help us build the promo room? And I go, all right, no worries. Happy to do it. And I guess looking at back now, it was kind of poetic that I set up a promo room in some of my first weeks, and now I end up basically filming, recording, and editing most of the promo work that
You
goes into
live in that
RCW with the help of.
space.
Yeah, legit. That's my life. But yeah, and now I get a lot of help from Angus Dacey and a bloke by the name of Carmine Laguzio too, who's also big on the team. Those guys also produce great. Fun, easy to work with. We talk every day, just to stay in touch, just to say, hey, look, I'm gonna be posting this, or make sure we get footage from this guy because we've got a match coming up. That communication is definitely important.
You did mention something
Beautiful.
that I want to touch base on real quick. Promo night. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for John. I can speak for myself. When my interest started peaking in Riot City, I think it was the first Beyond the Bell that we did. We did it with Red Shaw. If it wasn't Red Shaw, it was Katie Trey. Katie Trey
It
was
was
within
Red
the
Shaw.
first. Was it Red Shaw?
Yeah, he was the first one that we heard it from, and then we heard it from Katie, and then we heard it from everybody else. And it's been a big point for us, and the love that we have for Riot City is the amount of work that goes in on that back end, on that academy training in the workroom. That is something that is very unique to you guys, and I think that it's the defining factor that makes Riot City one of our favorite promotions is the work that you guys put in on that front end in learning the positions and putting in the promo time and the character work, and it isn't just the wrestling, it's the everything. And I think that's the third part. Yeah, you have the mic work, yeah, you have the wrestling itself, but that third part, that foundational basics in the training academy that you guys run that focuses on more than just the wrestling is a prime factor to what Riot City is. And that's the thing that you are just talking about, the way that it works, the way that the culture of the business is behind the curtain. And that's always been a favorite thing that we've recognized about it too.
And I think you're having world-class training by coming to RCW. Like, that's not just me plugging the product either. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen guys literally go from here to work overseas and some to work for the big guys. And especially how welcome newer people are. It's a little family, you know what I mean? Like, and at RCW, we feel pride in the people and the talent that we produce, and that obviously, speaks to our product as well. And you can see it. You can see guys literally grow up and develop, and everyone's always learning. I'm still learning. If I look back at a promo that I did not even 2 years ago, but you could go back 5 years ago, more than that, I'd critique the hell out of it. Because I feel like I want to get better every single time, and I tell that to guys too when they're working on their character. Don't be afraid to do what I'm doing right now. Just look in the car mirror and just talk to yourself. You may feel like you're crazy, but it's stuff you can do outside of the training ball. And that's again coming from that's not a wrestler. Yeah, I've had a couple of matches. They're not exactly going to end up on any Dave Meltzer 5-star list, but it
You mentioned Meltzer, and John
But-
just cringed.
yeah,
I did.
I saw his face. Isn't it crazy how, like, I mean, I don't know the guy, obviously, but how much he is entrenched in the culture? How much people value his opinion? It's unreal, man. I mean,
they
props
either
to him.
value it or they don't. There's no middle ground whatsoever. You either run with it or you hate the face. And it's crazy how entrenched he's become that way.
It's just the tribalism that's in wrestling. That's what it all boils down to. It's one of the downsides of professional wrestling, but I guess tribalism's everywhere, not just in wrestling. It's just one of those social flaws nowadays, I reckon. John, what you got next?
I think,
So
I think,
go ahead.
speaking on that. Oh, sorry, John.
No. By all
Speaking
means,
of
if you've got a
tribalism
take on the
stuff,
tribalism, I want to hear that.
But to turn around and say you shouldn't like that, I think is so dumb. It's like going to see a movie and going, that movie was the shits. Don't go see it. And it's like, okay, cool. That's your opinion. I think I'm interested in it. I might go give it a watch, and you end up liking it. And if you listen to that person that said, don't go see it, it's the drizzling shits because I think it's the worst movie ever made, then you wouldn't have discovered perhaps your new favorite flick. It's the same thing can be applied to pro wrestling.
Exactly.
I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. I don't like to do negativity. I feel like in the world that we live in, wherever you're at, you're surrounded by negativity, and so why cater to it? Why? There's no reason to. And when I see like social media and I see the AEW and the WWE and oh you can't sell tickets or oh you can't do this or oh you can't do that. At the end of the day, it's professional wrestling. You either want professional wrestling to succeed or you want it to fail. And I may not be an AEW fan, but that doesn't mean that I want the company to close. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go out here and bash them.
No.
It doesn't mean that because there may be aspects of it that I do like. Same thing can be said for the WWE. Same thing can be said for independents. Like on the smaller market of independent wrestling, I think it's insane that local companies can't get along, or you have to be the best, or you have to. It's not about competition. It is about competition to a degree, but if you kill your market and you kill the people that are working around you, how are you going to build anything for the future? Because you may not be here tomorrow. And if you snuff out what's positive, with the market of professional wrestling or in general, like I just don't get. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why people would do that. Sorry, that's my rant for the show.
Well, but it ties in because I think that Riot really does something about that. The way that you guys run your academy and the way that you bring in your new students and the things that you're doing on the fundamental basic level completely annihilates that entire tribalism in your market. And I love to see that.
Yeah, and we'll work with promotions around South Australia where we can too, with the names that we can see coming up and that want to work with us. Our policy isn't a closed door. We want to work with the best, and we want to work with people that want to be here at the end of the day, and that should be the philosophy for any company. If you're working with people that can be creative, they can collaborate, it's phenomenal, because then you go out there and produce the absolute best product you can, and then when it eventually goes up on YouTube or whatever you may stream on, the rest of the world's going to look at it and go, "Man, these guys in Australia on this," and a lot of people are killing it in Australia. I haven't shared a locker room with a lot of indies around Australia, maybe a couple in Melbourne and one in Brisbane. That's about it. But that's in an 8-year career. I think I've been to like 3 outside of Adelaide, and that's just circumstance. It's just that's how the cards were dealt. But a Riot City Wrestling locker room, it's a great place, man. Honestly. And it's one of those things where you look around and go, there's all these different personalities coming together, and producing the absolute best show possible. And anyone that's wanting to be a part of that, hey, doors open.
Well, that's somewhere I can easily pivot to right here because, like, the Australian market in general, like I said, we dove into the rabbit hole. One of the things that we found out with that's kind of a key to the success factor of wrestling in South Australia as a whole is how the different companies will work together. I know Redshaw has done some ACW stuff and some PWSA, and you see some crossovers and you see some talents going and doing some different things. I think that is a beautiful thing. Because it's allowing everybody to work with everybody, and you can build your base for the entire market. Like you're building the next level of professional wrestling in the area, and I think that's a beautiful thing to see.
It's fantastic.
What do you got?
Company like RCW grow over the years. Sorry, Zach, dropping out again.
No, you're in. So
there we go.
outside of the production and the admin stuff, you do get yourself into some tight scrapes in there. What's training been like for you?
This I don't need no training. Look at me. Look at me. No,
So pure
um,
natural, huh?
admitted, it's all natural, man. Nah, look, I did train for a few years there early on, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be a manager and I'm going to be involved, I need to know what I'm doing and I need to know how to do it safely. So I decided to do a few training nights here and there, but then 1 day a week turned into 2 days a week. 2 days a week turned into 3 and then 4, and
Do that.
then other commitments started to happen, especially with my radio career as well, just doing other projects. I just felt couldn't commit 100% to that schedule, and just out of respect, I just came to Basso Brothers and said, I was like, look, I'm still keen to be involved. I'm still excited. I just don't think an in-ring career is on the cards for me, and which is fine. But I think my assets can be used in other places. Doesn't mean I'll still get in there and have a scrap if I can. There's some people that just annoy me a little bit. Just a little bit.
Down under.
Sometimes I have to put them in check. But when you, oh, down under, man. Have you guys had a chance to go back to how me and Down Under's issue started?
I have not. I have
All I
not.
can
No.
describe it.
I'd love to hear it.
2019. It's pandemic. Oh, sorry. Not quite pandemic. 2020, we were going into our pandemic shows. I mean, in March. So this was just before we moved to Kilkenny. At the time, I was managing a gentleman by the name of Steve Miller, the South African superstar. This is when I was just became babyface, and we thought that we'd do a story with me and Down Under, where he takes me to a little magical place called Down Underworld. And from there, all I can describe it is, if you like the stuff with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse, you'll get a kick out of this.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and take a peek at that.
Yeah,
oh,
we'll have to find that whole thing.
I do every time I talk about
Yeah,
Down
so
Under. I gotta mention this. Dude's got the best mullet in Australia. It's not even close.
The one thing he does well, it's sporting Flanny and rocking that mullet. It's a
Facts.
yeah, he's got it, man. He's on it. It would look weird if he didn't have one.
I think at this point,
I'd say that.
I need to see him with the mullet. Like, let me just tell you, and if he listens to this, buddy, if you watch this, I'm just telling you, that's Ricky, or excuse me, Ricky Morton. That's Ricky Morton level of mullet here in the States.
Oh yeah.
There's no higher compliment
100%.
that can be paid. I'm just being 100. It is one of the, like, when I think mullets in the business, I think Ricky Morton and I think Down Under. That's it. That's where it goes. It stops there.
And Nick Patrick.
Patrick in the 90s, absolutely.
Yeah.
And going back and watching some of those early WrestleManias, I don't think there's a single person who doesn't have any form of a mullet.
It's a lost art.
Dude,
it was an unreal pandemic.
No.
I've thought about rocking.
Dude, if you think that mullet is dense, go look at the old territory stuff. Crockett Promotions, Mid-South, all that. Dude, you want to talk about mullets? That's where the mullets are.
Crazy hairdos, man. Like in Australia, it's not frowned upon at all.
No,
Like we call them our tradies. That they're with a bit of high vis, nice coffee in one hand, a pie in the other, and a mullet. That's the Aussie look, man. You can tell an Aussie by a mile away just by looking at that.
while we're just mentioning this, shout out to Down Under. Recently picked up the PWSA championship over Redshaw. Redshaw is Someone who I'll always hold near and dear to our channel. I always credit him for giving us our first break with Beyond the Bell because he was the first guy to say yes. And we got an opportunity to really dive into Riot City, and as two guys that formerly in the business, 20 plus years ago, a lot of things have changed. And what I'm enjoying about the modern era, especially on the independent scene, is just how it's booming everywhere. So what I want to ask you now, being both in front of the camera and behind the scenes, what has the overall growth been like to sit back and watch over the last 9 years in South Australia, as far as the crowd sizes improving, the business getting better, and what kind of things do you think attribute to the growth that has been happening? Not only in South Australia, but really all over the world. Independent wrestling is booming everywhere. It's eerily similar to the territory
it's on
days back
another
in
level.
the 80s. It's I've never seen it like this.
When I was growing up, the only Australian wrestler I ever saw on TV was Nathan Jones. The only person that they ever introduced from Australia was him. Yeah, I knew there was like Outback Jack from the 80s, and you could go back to some of the territory days, but for me, when I was a kid, that was the only person. And it was like, I don't think that there's ever going to be a time when there's going to be an Australian featured in a predominant role. That changed, I think, with Rhea Ripley.
100%.
Yeah, so with Rhea Ripley, when she went over in 2017, had our last match with us, I was just getting started into. I was in my first year with RCW, but even before then, I'd go back and watch the product from a couple of years prior, and we were still producing some great crowds. So the word was getting out there about RCW. The word was getting out there about Australian wrestling, even if it was just locally. So people were coming to shows, and then from there, it was amazing to hear. You turn on, I think it was the Mae Young Classic at the time, on the network, and the announcer would go from Australia, and it was awesome. As in that, never heard their country be represented. It was great, and then from there, I think the gates just opened. Social media definitely played a massive part. It's you ever starved for wrestling content at any time, any day of the week, you can pick up a new show anywhere around the world. And in Australia, there's something going on every single weekend. Whether it's one show, two or three shows, there's something happening around the country. In SA, it's gotten even bigger now after word got out more about Riot City Wrestling. We were able to run shows regularly at our big thing down here called the Adelaide Fringe, which is a massive festival here in South Australia, and the best of the best acts around the country come here. I didn't know this until I actually started in radio and was interviewing some fringe talent, whether it was comedians and people of that nature, that you've got people from overseas that come to the Adelaide Fringe. And I was thinking, little old Adelaide, we're known for churches and wine. Not really a party town, but they'd come for the Fringe.
Yeah, but Fringe
and it was
crazy.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Like that's a world class con or a big concert event all rolled into one for weekends and weekends at a time.
It's a massive. Sorry, John. Sorry, Chris.
I was going to say, I have heard that the Fringe shows are a blessing and a curse. That they're fantastic to do, but they're a pain in the ass to get in and get out because you're under the gun.
For those, you know what? Whoever said that, they're not wrong. Especially when you're promoting 3 or 4 shows. This year, I think we did our most shows ever.
Right.
At the Fringe, it was 4 shows. One weekend was back to back. Like literally, finished the show at 1 at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and it moved so quickly, and it's a lot of work. But man, a Fringe crowd is It's amazing. It's
So
amazing. We get some of our biggest crowds from the Fringe, and it's newer fans. It's older fans. They're just stopping by, and we've got our guys out there, in their gear, and they're pitching to come in the tent, and we pack it, man, every single year. It ceases to amaze me. People that are just discovering wrestling for the first time, and we see them again come to our normal shows, whether it's Goodwood, Big Shed, whatever we're running. Yeah, it's definitely a place where we can produce new fans. It's always exciting to go back. I'm keen for 25. I can't wait.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you for our side of the equation, we loved the Fringe this past year for us because we usually get one show a month. Well, we got four
Mm-hmm.
shows that month, and the way that what I really liked about it
Yeah,
is how it was broken down because your time restraints, right? So you got to get it done within an hour to an hour and a half. So for our time slot on our Inside the Indies, it's a 2 hour block. We were able to take day one and day two and run it on one night, and we got a super card. 2 hours or 2.5 hours of action that was culminated by whatever your main event was, right? And then the next week we got to do it. We held the week and a half. We got to do the same thing
To
again.
do it again, yeah.
It was like back to back to back to back. We enjoyed that just because we enjoyed the product. And one thing that we're looking at, or I'm looking at for sure, is like just the overall growth. I'm looking at the audience. I'm looking at the crowd. I'm looking to see how invested they are. And reality is you guys got your fingers on the pulse of your market, which is fantastic to see because it just tells us that it's not going anywhere. And it's only going to get bigger. It's not going to stop here. And you mentioned Rhea Ripley that came out of that area. Didn't But Grayson Waller was one that was from Australia. It may not have been from your area,
another one too.
but it started with Rhea, and if I kind of feel what you're saying, I feel like some of the eyes started drifting over there to see what's going on, and here recently with Delta getting signed, like it's one of those situations to where I believe more attention is going to come to the area, and what makes it better, at least for Riot City, is that these are Riot City. At least in Delta's case and in Rhea's case, I believe we're trained at Riot City.
Mm-hmm.
So you're producing these stars. So it can only mean positive things for everyone attached to Riot City Wrestling.
It's a it's a good thing to aspire to do because now you feel like you have hope of making it overseas. Back in the day, like when I was even down here a few years ago, before Rhea blew up, before guys like Bronson Reed blew up, that are
Doing a
from
rock, yeah.
Adelaide, and you got Grace over there as well, who wrestled for us under Maddie Wahlberg for a Rumble. Very talented, very talented. Um, you can now look at that and go, it's possible. It's
Hmm.
possible. And you can help build back here. It's tremendous to show. There's so many guys that will come up to me and they'll ask me, can you do something to put together that I can take overseas, whether it's a poster. It's all Riot City stuff. It's all their work in RCW.
Hmm.
So it could be like a poster advertising them with like a QR code link to some of their matches because they're proud of the work that they produced here and they never forget where they came from if they do end up going overseas and working and they're just flying that flag, man, flying the RCW flag. I think Rhea one time even had the RCW colours repping on her gear. So I know she still loves it down here. We love to see her success over there, and I'm looking forward to seeing who's the next name that ends up down there. Mentioned Delta earlier before. I can't speak to the fact whether or not she is where she is headed right now. But wherever she is going, I know she is going to dominate that landscape.
The
She is going
reports
to
from
take
here
over.
are, yeah, the reports from here are that she's going to NXT, and her and like three other chicks right now are headed to NXT, and they're supposed to change the face of wrestling, and I can't even argue with the point.
If that is indeed, like you said,
Delta's
if that is indeed the fact, it has been reported by several several reputable sources in the states, which I completely understand. Number one, as a fan, if I'm Delta, I don't. It's my business. Like I get it, but the excitement level is there, right? Because there is some things. I'm telling you now, if she is headed to the WWE, my dream match, and it would take a couple of years to get there if you build it correctly, and if you book it in Australia, it's fucking money. Rhea Ripley, Delta, in a stadium in Australia, it will sell. Put that match on the marquee if they don't fuck Delta up. Put that match on the marquee. It it will sell out without anything else being announced, just because of just the star power alone and the presence that they bring. If Delta is headed to American television, and let's say it's not with the WWE, who wherever she's headed should be fucking grateful, number one, because she is going to change the landscape of women's wrestling wherever she lands.
Wrestling period.
That we saw it the first night we saw one of the shows, the clusterfuck ladder match, and the first thing I said when I saw her on stream, I said, John, 3 to 5.
Well, her match with Katie Trey for the championship was enough for me. I was like, that woman right there is not just a women's wrestler. She's a wrestler, period. And a lot of times women's wrestling gets stuck with this stigma that they've got to function in a different way or they have to do a different thing in the matches. And you guys do not do that, which is one of the things I appreciate about Riot. You guys treat them like they're part of the talent roster, just like everybody else. They're not a women's feature. They're wrestlers, just like everyone else. And if the rest of the industry could get on that same page and book her the way that you guys did in Riot and have her character work the way that she did there, it will absolutely revolutionize what wrestling is doing, period. Especially in the women's space, the intergender space, and anywhere that treats the women's roster that way, you're going to see an increase in the product. You're going to. We've seen it other places. We've seen it with you guys. And if they can do it too, Delta is the catalyst for them to be able to do something like that.
You mentioned it before, Chris. Let's just say, hypothetically, one day you get Rhea Ripley versus Delta. Adelaide Oval, forget about it.
I'm saying,
Booked.
I'm
The whole
saying,
place.
Two
Wall.
Adelaide girls coming home. It'd be the biggest thing in Australian pro wrestling. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. How could you deny someone like Delta, with the aura that she has, the presence that she has in the ring? I've been in the ring with Delta. I was in the ring with her when she first started her career. I've had the pleasure of working with her behind the scenes on a few projects, and seeing her at the very end. We actually were able to have a Jett Armstrong Delta match towards her final.
As a
her
part
final
of the,
few months in
part of the Pillars
RCW,
matches, yeah.
and
What a good match.
Fantastic. Jett Armstrong's one that's
one of my
under the
favorites to be
radar.
a part of.
I think he's one that people sleep on. Personally, I'm sorry, I don't mean to step on you. You mentioned Jett. I have to get that out there.
I think him and his brother, both the Armstrongs,
Champ.
are some of the most talented. Yeah, champ. He gets me, man, with that walk. Everywhere he goes in the tongue, and he's awesome,
when I first
man.
saw
It's
Nick,
a simple
I was
thing.
like, what the fuck is he doing? And then as I watched the show, I'm like, no, Champ's the shit, dude. Whatever.
He and his brother actually just helped fill out their hometown last night here in South Australia, Mount Gambier, both Mount Gambier boys, and they were able to go home and team up once again in front of their friends and family, which is cool for them. Going back to Jett Armstrong, I've worked with him for about, again, another lad I speak to every single day, whether it's just to shoot the shit or go over creative plans of what we want to do, where we want to go. He is and can be the biggest pain in the ass, and I say that with all the love in my heart because he is so passionate about the product. You sit him down for a few minutes, you may want to end it all, but but he is so talented. He is he's so passionate about making our product, especially Riot City Wrestling, grow to better and better heights every month. Every month. Like whether it's, I'll talk to him about, hey, I got this idea for a song we can use on the show, or whatever it is, just small details like that. And he'll go, no, well, let's use this new song. New is always better. And I agree with that because it freshens up the product every single time, even if it's just little things. We're not using the same graphics. We're not using the same cutaways to matches, whatever it may be. Anything we can do to change the show. He's got his finger on the pulse when it comes to production as well. And he'll probably get a kick out of me saying all this, and then refer it back to our team and see, I've got ideas.
I think.
Well,
go ahead, John. Sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of ideas and things going on, you guys are kind of in this perfect storm of what independent wrestling is doing right now. And we always, when we're talking to other people about what they'd like to see the industry do, one of the things that they bring up all the time is the working between companies, and you guys are doing that so well. And you guys are like our model for it. It's like, hey, if you guys have not seen what's going on in South Australia, as far as like companies interchanging rosters and working, go check that out, because that's the blueprint for what everyone else is trying to figure out. And you guys are doing it. But it isn't just that part that's kind of the perfect storm for you. Coming out of COVID, you guys had a lot of shows start popping back up, and the fans came out. They were wanting to go to live events, and that kind of started the resurgence of wrestling there. And then you had the WWE come over and do the show there. You had the training camp with the video that popped off with the Pareas and Delta prominently shown in the video. You guys had a lot of material coming out, a lot of news covering what was going on. The Fringe show happened right after that, which was bigger than it's ever been. You guys have had like one thing after another, just like shove wrestling down everyone's throat. Where are you guys at on riding that wave, and how do you figure to move that forward? Like, are you counting on more events like that to keep pushing, or are you planning something for that? Or what's from the office's perspective, how do you keep that momentum like you've had this last maybe 2 years?
It can be challenging, and I think anyone with a successful business will say this. It's harder to stay on top than it is to get on top. Now I think like Riot City Wrestling, and I always thought we were the standard to be set in Australia when it comes to pro wrestling. As far as maintaining that momentum, I'll give you a great example. Usually we go month to month, and I'll know the key matches that we want for a particular show. This is the first time since I've not only just been doing the production side of Riot City, but been in RCW period, where I'm promoting matches for December. We have 5 shows ready to go, lined up with posters, with graphics, and it's all over the state. So we did Mount Gambier last night. We're coming back to Kilkenny and Goodwood over September, October. Then we go about 6 hours up the road to a place called Port Lincoln and Tumby Bay. And that is also looking very good in terms of what turned out. So to see the product stretch so far outside just the Adelaide city and going to other places around the state, it's awesome, man, because now people in the country, people that don't get wrestling at all, not just what they see on TV, but getting a chance to see in person. I remember the first time when I went to a wrestling show, I got to see it in person, I was wrong. And it made me an even bigger fan. So now it's just maintaining that momentum. We keep pumping out shows because the demand is there. More content. We live in a content-driven age now, to where you've got to keep going. I post every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't post something on the RCW social media. Otherwise, you get lost, man. You get lost. And I think anyone with a good brand will tell you that. I mean, my brand goes to shit sometimes because I'm so focused on RCW stuff, but it's also a reflection of me too. I love getting the word out about the product, and even when I'm out on the field doing my radio stuff, there's been a couple of times someone locally will recognize who I am from RCW, which is cool as hell. But then someone will follow up and say, "What did you say? Pro wrestling?" I said, "Yeah, man, we run shows every single month just down the road here at Kilkenny or Goodwood, and we get the word out." So growing our fan base to people that do like wrestling and just have never been to a live show before, because WWE ran the Chamber in Perth, but that was our first Australian live show, I think, in maybe 5 to 6 years. So sometimes it comes around very rarely. Hopefully we get, I mean, with AEW Grand Slam Australia being announced, that's another cool pickup for the land down under. More eyeballs that are going to be on the Australian product down here, especially the companies over in Brizzy. They're gonna have a great time over that weekend. So they're going to be thinking the same thing. How do we capitalize on more eyes watching something else to come give us a look? And that's always been our philosophy. How can we capitalize getting more eyes? It's the same with the Fringe. We know there's going to be people there that aren't wrestling fans that we can convert. And there's people that are wrestling fans that have never been to a live show and they get that experience for the very first time.
Let me tell you this. So when we first started realizing that Riot City was something that we wanted to watch every month, it became, and this is something that like you guys really should understand that it's your work that did this. Well, what started as us following Riot City and getting into the programming, getting into the shows, and it's turned into an every month thing. We have people who literally will tune in to that stream, and that's the only stream they may watch that month. But they come back, and one of the first thing they say is it's Riot City night. So you're expanding an audience little by little, and where I say professional wrestling brings people together is just like that. Like, I want people to be able to experience and get into what Riot City is doing. The storylines have always been crisp; they've been really good. The production
They
work,
make me cry.
yeah, and I make fun of him for it.
Yeah.
That's
The
fine.
production value is there. Like
Yeah, I get it, man. I get upset when Jett loses too.
There was it was absolutely purgatory for me. The night that Purgatory was disbanded, I lost my shit.
it was fantastic. With all
That's just emotional investment.
exactly when you got it, and that's it. That's just it. That's the thing. So
Oh,
indies
you guys
gimmicky.
hooked the shit out of me.
Exactly. I mean, there's storylines now that I'm like, man, like, Chris Basso. I want to smack shit out of him right now. I want somebody to smack the shit out of him right now. Somebody needs to. I like the rise of Baron or Super Sigma.
That hate is crying right now.
Hater.
I don't.
I love Hater. I've done
No. The Sigma angle.
Oh.
I love Baron. When he took the mask off, we were there that night, and I lost my fucking mind. But the new Baron is not the Baron that I fell in love with, and I want to hate him now. He makes me so mad at him.
Success is
I think
what
you might be doing
Right.
something right.
let me tell you about. Here's what I shared this with Paul Roberts. I'll share it with you too. Brady Roberts, excuse me. Here's when I knew that we really made it in Australia. When I got the DM from Matt Hader, a video DM of Matt Hader watching us talking about him on our stream on a Stairmaster. Like, it doesn't get better than
It can be a dangerous thing getting a message from him.
that.
Dude,
never
when
know
he
what it's
told me,
gonna
I was
be
like,
when you
oh
open
God, is everything good?
Yeah. With your experience with Riot City, and you've been able to see a lot over the last 9 years. What are some of your favorite moments? Whether it be in front of the camera, whether it be behind the scenes, what are some of your top moments within Riot City? As you've been able to grow up with it essentially over the last decade.
Yeah, in terms of my favorite moments, I will be here till next week telling how many incredible moments I've had in Riot City Wrestling. I'll name a couple, and it sort of paints a timeline of where I was and where I am now. So when I first started, I think I mentioned earlier, I was a manager for Kurt Barron, who we're talking about now, is obviously turned into Super Sigma, absolutely killing it. Has his fans, John. And I got the opportunity to work alongside him in an angle that was going to produce the next general manager of Riot City Wrestling. Got to work with a guy by the name of Brad Smythe, who had his surrogate by the name of Hammer. And we were embroiled in a big program for about 4 years. 4 years, sorry. No, I take that back. It was only about a year. Felt like 4 years on my body because, man, he would he'd beat me up every month. He got a chance to, but we got a chance to work in Queensland and stuff. But back to Riot, moment that sticks out for me is the night I got kicked in the face and I lost my GM ship, which hearing the crowd, how happy they were when I got kicked in the face was so bittersweet because I was like, you really don't like me that much?
Well, you mentioned earlier about being a baby face at one point, and I can't see that. That does not sound like a fun world to live in.
Really?
I prefer
was a pretty nice guy.
faces. Yeah,
I'm a heel guy.
Don't listen to him.
I'm a heel guy, and as far as like on the manager role, like I love a good heel manager. And your interactions with Jett and Gouda. I think Gouda is doing some fucking phenomenal work right now.
Gouda's gold.
The last show that we watched featured the Riot City Rumble, where we saw you and Gouda and Jett Armstrong pull off what I thought was one of the funnier angles of that entire show.
Oh,
the
three faces of Jett.
The three faces of Jett. I thought that was priceless. That was great. So yes, I prefer the heel side of the equation because it's just you got some great one-liners and it's timing, and I think some of that has to do with radio as well. Because it's once you get that timing down and of the delivery itself, it's perfect. Like sometimes the works that you do as a heel, so you're like, if I want to punch you, then you're doing your job. And you've done your job several times because I just want to just give him one because it's great. I don't know. As a babyface,
I love it, man.
John probably loves that side of the equation because he likes to be the hero.
And that's actually the moment that switched me over to babyface, was getting kicked in the face. So funny how wrestling works. You go away for a couple months and they end up missing you. I was only a good guy for about a couple years. And another key moment for me that stood out is I actually got to wrestle I'd done a Rumble previously, but I got to wrestle in an actual match. It was a tag match. We used to run a venue called HQ Complex. I got to team with Steve Miller, who I talked about before, against Havoc and Benjamin Rosenthal when they were linked up. Yeah, so that was so fun. My family was there. My friends were there. It's the only time me and my current partner, who's now my fiance, have been on the same show together. She was doing a role there with a bloke by the name of Tony Toro, and that's cool to go watch that back. It's something for me now. In retrospect, I get to look back and show our future kids, like, hey, look at mum and dad like doing something, on the same show together. It's cool for me, but I still love the fact that I can go back and watch that match now and think, yeah, I did it once at least. I was in the big black trunks, did the people's elbow, that stuff that you as we get jaded talking about product and we go in workings, those little things that you can do that you remember from a kid and you get to experience and live out. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love reminiscing about that. And then that's probably in terms of my past would be some standout moments for me, for sure.
I can appreciate that, man. I appreciate you sharing those too, man. Especially the behind the curtain ones. Those are fucking great. Those are the memories the gifts that keep on giving. John, go ahead.
So we've touched a little on this about where the industry of independent wrestling is and where it's become something that it's never become before, and that's realistically like the globe over. Independent wrestling is looking more and more like the old territory days of America, and everybody's trying to carve out their niche, and they're all trying to rise up together, and there's a lot of companies working in the same spaces. But the one thing that is growing exponentially is the fan base. More and more people are looking at wrestling. We get new eyes on it every time a show goes out, every time somebody posts something on social media. What do you think is our opportunity, not just as the fans or as the companies or as the workers, but as the industry as a whole, to really move us forward into the new era of what wrestling is becoming? What do we need to look out for, and how can we help it grow into the proper space that we've got it moving into now that we've got it headed that direction?
I think don't underestimate any sort of potential thing that can come along that can create buzz. Something as silly as Joe Hendry right now clapping his hands and getting the crowd to sing along has captivated any crowd that he steps in front of, and it goes viral. I think a lot of people will look for those viral moments, and that's just the way that technology is right now, and it's a way to get
It's
out
like
quick
socials.
content. Yeah, socials, man. Like it's the way that the world is going. Anytime you can stay connected to, like right now, I've got a piece of technology in my phone that I can communicate with you guys overseas. Um, and we're both in different time zones. The fact that I can do that, and I can also jump on here and then go watch Bash in Berlin if I want to, which was done when I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the fact that I can watch content anywhere, anytime is phenomenal. I think pro wrestling now needs to play to those strengths, and I think they are. I think we're seeing a lot more overseas shows, more than ever. Um, Especially with WWE, it's crazy. I think they've ran only a couple of uh, state pay per views this year. The rest have been all international, whether it's France or Australia or Berlin. And with Riot City Wrestling, like I said, we're expanding outside the state. So now that more people are watching us from afar, even if it's the only distance that we can travel is 6 hours down the road, capitalize on that, get the word out about the product, and don't be afraid to try something new. Always try something new. And I think that speaks to any era of wrestling. Because if you're not trying something new, you're getting stale, you're getting you're getting complacent. And I think when people do the same thing, they just get bored. They may not think it, but they definitely show it that they're doing the same, which is why I always try and change it up. If I can just change up what I'm wearing, you know, I may wear a red spiky jacket one month and then a black spiky jacket the next, and I might come out in totally something different. And keep your eyes out. I've got a extensive wardrobe. So yeah, for me, what other companies can do is just stay connected, keep your finger on the pulse, look at what's going on in modern day, use the current day technology to your advantage because it's all free. When you think about it, it's all free publicity. And that's what drew me to doing stuff on social media. Like there, I can get this out to hundreds of people and make them aware about that show, about our show for absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, I think if we can um just not be afraid to try stuff new, man. Because that's what I'm doing. Or at least I'm hoping that I am.
Well, and
Listen,
utilizing the technologies that we have is really advancing what we can and can't do. And marketing now is so easy.
let me tell you
Yep.
how kind of how appreciative I am of stumbling across Riot City and getting into the Australian market and being able to see other federation or other organizations from other parts of the country down there. And again, I will always credit it back to Riot City and stumbling across RCW. We started another show. completely centered around Australian independent wrestling. Another gentleman,
Drop that again.
Bobby Bishop, was a gentleman I was able to come across and over the course of the last year, and I partnered up with him. And we're literally doing a live show every other week or maybe once a month for the YouTube channel as well, because of Australian wrestling, to try and get the word out about the independent scene that's going on down there, because it is legitimately some of the best wrestling in the world that's not been seen, and it needs to be seen. So I can speak for myself and John and everybody on our channel and saying thank you and everything that you've done to help bring that to us, because without your work, we wouldn't be able to see it. And that's on the production side, on the character side. And I know that we just talked a little bit about the production and a little bit about your character. And there's a lot of meat left on this bone to circle back around on if you ever want to come back on down the line. But I want to thank you because you have influenced what we've done here, because we see the appreciation that the Australian market has for what we're trying to do as well, which is get eyes on what you guys have going on. And I cannot be more thankful for the time that you've given us today, on Father's Day, no less, down in Australia.
Oh, this is my gift to my dad. He can go watch this back in October. He's a big wrestling fan too. He loves it. He comes to shows when he can. He can too
I
with
can only imagine.
my mum. Yeah. He'll say, "Oh, you're getting beaten up tonight. Like, what are you doing?" And I'll be like, "Oh, just come down. Just come have a watch." So yeah, no, thank you guys. I really appreciate you having us on. Getting the word out about Australian wrestling. And again, like I said at the top, you guys supporting us from afar is tremendous. Knowing that there's fans overseas that are watching us, it's the same that I said before. Hearing Americans talk about Australian wrestling, or announcing from Adelaide, South Australia, whatever it may be, it's those barriers of oceans have just been knocked away now. It doesn't exist, and you can watch great wrestling from anywhere in the world, especially here in Australia, and especially here in South Australia for Riot City Wrestling.
I'm going to tell you this, guys. It's been right above his head the entire episode. Over on Instagram, it's Jimmy C Official. Over on X, it's that Jimmy C guy. You need to go over there and give this gentleman a follow. You'll be also connected to Riot City Wrestling. Everything Riot City Wrestling is down below in the links, YouTube video or YouTube links. God damn, I'll edit that out. The YouTube links, the Xtagram, the Instagram, everything Riot City Wrestling will be down below. John, what do you got to say to Mr. Jimmy before we tie a bow on it?
Oh, sir, we always appreciate everything you guys are doing. I don't know what I would be doing right now without Riot City for sure. We were kind of fumbling around in the dark, trying to find really good independence, and just kind of putting a finger on a globe and spinning that bad boy until we landed on something, and we'd go look for it. And my passion for mainstream wrestling waned a long time ago, when competition grew less and less, and their storylines were just not what they were, and it wasn't as engaging. And you guys have added a passion back to the sport for me that has been missing, and now I'm excited to see a show. And I can't say that about a lot of products. And you guys have absolutely made me want to watch wrestling.
It's what we want, man. That's exactly the emotion that we want to get from people, and that's awesome to hear. And we're bringing them in the gate every single month, and it never ceases to amaze me the leaps and bounds RCW has grown. I look forward to working with other promotions as well. Like, I'm not just closed off to RCW, whether it's as a talent or behind the scenes. I've had a few opportunities to work with other companies around the country. Hasn't quite worked out, which is fine. Might be I'm not there regularly available to talk to face, so sometimes that happens. But if all I ever do is RCW, I'm a happy man.
And I'm so grateful that we were able to sit down and chat for a minute. This has been a fun time for me. I know it's been great for John. Do you got anything you want to say to the guys watching the video, the guys and gals out there? Any kind of advice you want to give anybody? Anything you want to plug on the way out?
Your radio show, maybe?
Radio,
Ooh.
yeah.
Radio, well, if you're down here in South Australia, you can listen to me on Fresh 92.7, 4 p.m. every single Saturday, or you can seek us out on the Fresh 92.7 app. However, in terms of what I want to get across, mate, tune in to RCW Strength coming up. Tune in to RCW Power Trip. We're going to be down in Tumby Bay, Port Lincoln, Red Roof. I think it's Red Roof Rumble 2. We've also got WrestleRama, and then, of course, Battle for Supremacy, where Dr. Richard Guda is going to become the undisputed general manager of RCW. Big Brody Marshall, I hope your neck can hold up, mate, because you are not going to be able to put this company on top of it.
Give me cheese. I appreciate it. This has been fun. John, you want to go ahead and sign us out?
Guys and gals, you know exactly how this works. If it isn't for the tremendous product that they're putting out, we've got no content, we've got no stuff to present to you, and we've got lacks of passions in our heart for the industry. It's all these guys doing the work that they do, presenting the stuff that they do for our entertainment that allows us to come and present it to you. I will shout forever from the rooftops that Riot City is absolutely an amazing product. And if you haven't seen it already, check it out on their channel. All the links are down below. Check it out on our channel. We watch back and comment on everything that they do. We've got our fingers in it as deep as we can, and we love it. You should love it too. If you want to support, guys, it's really easy.
Oh, great. Now he froze.
So it wasn't just me. That's good.
No, it's him too. Let's give him a second. He'll be back, I would imagine.
Oh, good, man.
That's a joke. I'm Paige Must Fix. His shit always freezes up. So the fact that yours was freezing up, it actually held up better than I thought it would, being where you're at in Australia.
It's holding up better on the phone than it was on the laptop.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have some work to do on the first piece of the show, but it'll be fine, and I know it'll work out. Okay.
No, apologies. Thanks for helping us work through that one.
Yeah, no worries.
You think for someone that's works in tech, they know what the hell they're doing, but they give me the content and I edit it up. I actually don't know what I'm doing when it comes to working audio.
I'm gonna tell you, man. I am I am in my 40s, early 40s, and modern technology is not my friend at all.
Hello.
Yeah, I got you. So you wanna do that again? You wanna take it from the top?
I'll finish up. Do you want me to take it from there, or you want me to take it from where they can support?
Take it from the top, because I don't know where you froze.
Shit. I got to go back through all that again. I don't even remember what I said now. All right, we're going to go. Here we go. Guys and gals, you know how this works. If you aren't in Australia, if you aren't able to buy a ticket, if you can't buy a shirt, you can't get the merch, your friends and family might. So you could like and share all the Riot City product, because you never know who's got it in them to get over there, go to the thing, do the thing, and support this indies. Without these indies doing what they do, we do not have content to present to you to show you what we're passionate about in the industry, and you have less to be passionate about with us. You guys know exactly what to do. Savage Elbows right there in the ding bell, so you never miss a beat what we got going on behind the curtain. Follow all the links below to get to Jimmy C's product and the Riot City stuff down there. You guys know exactly where it's at. We love each and every one of your faces. We'll see you next time.